Hello, welcome to Moving Beyond Burnout. My name is Camesha Jones. I am a licensed clinical social worker, recovering workaholic, and burnout overcomer. I've created Moving Beyond Burnout to empower Black women to cultivate self-awareness and to create practical pathways to overcome burnout for good. If you are joining me for the first time, please like this video, subscribe if you're watching me on YouTube or LinkedIn, and then please share this video with a woman that you know of who's struggling with burnout and is looking for support and hope. Just want to say hi to our Instagram family. I'm Camesha. I'll be talking about burnout today, but in the context of independence. So, with this being Independence Day, which is tomorrow here in the United States, I thought it would be interesting to talk about the independent Black women and how does independence connect to burnout. And so today I'm going to go a little bit deeper into, what is the independent Black woman? Where did it come from? And how does it connect to burnout and other challenges that we may face? So I first want to talk about independent women across generations. So over the past 50 years, women have come a really, really long way in terms of independence. We have, in some ways, the most freedom that we've ever had before. We have more choice and autonomy in our lives, from everything from career to, being able to provide for ourselves and our family, to have choices over what we can do in this society. And while it is a beautiful thing that we've experienced this independence, I think about like my mom and my grandmother and, all these women who were coming up during this time where Black women were able to just really make strides and really be able to achieve and have things that they never have had before, which is, a very, very beautiful thing. But one of the things that I want to touch on is, how does independence play out in different ways, and how does it impact us in terms of our mental health? So one of the things that I have really, really seen across the board is hyper independence in the Black community. So hyper independence, from the time that we Black girls are girls to the time that we are women, we are told that we need to be self-sufficient. We are told that you need to have your own income, your own place to live, yeah, not to depend on others. And so those things are really, really normalized within the Black community. And even when we think about like adultification, so Black girls from a very, very young age being given so many responsibilities, and those responsibilities can be taking care of other people, being able to be self-sufficient. And that hyper kind of independence at sometimes can cause us to not feel like we have as much support, or feel vulnerable when we want to reach out for support and help. And I think our women in our community and our mothers and family members, in some ways, have encouraged this independence, this value of independence, because of maybe being taken advantage of, maybe being controlled, having to fend for yourself. So some of the hyper independence that we see in the Black community that really affects Black women and girls has a lot to do with survival and being able to almost prevent traumatic things from happening or having traumatic things happening, and then being hyper independent to stay safe. And so there are a lot of, I would say, rhetoric around demeaning Black women for being independent or being strong, or in some ways, making fun of it and putting Black women down for being independent. But it has a lot of roots, you all. Being, self-sufficient is sometimes a way to protect ourselves. And so that can be really challenging for a lot of people to understand, especially in the YouTube streets and in discourse around independence. And so I want to define what hyper independence is. It is a survival mechanism that can develop as a response to trauma or other challenging life experiences. Is characterized by an extreme form of self-reliance and avoidance of asking for help and support. And so being able to take care of yourself is a form of it can be a form of confidence, it can be a form of safety. But the challenge is that if we are too hyper independent, it can leave us very stressed. It can feel us very isolated, and it can feel us feeling alone and being able to navigate a lot of life challenges. And so what I've seen in mental health specifically are, women who are operating in some hyper independence, and they're really stressed out and really burnt out from trying to carry and do all of these things on their own. And so the benefits of independence: safety, choice, autonomy, freedom. But the downside is being able to really feel like you can trust others to help you, being able to feel like you have the relationships where people can support you. And we all need one another to survive. And in America, where things are very like individualistic, it can be, we are encouraged to focus on self and to not really rely on other people. So one of the things that I want to offer as a way to either shift independence is to practice interdependence. So interdependence is being able to have mutually beneficial reciprocal relationships in a variety of areas of your life. And so being able to be interdependent means that you are utilizing mutually respectful, beneficial, reciprocal relationships to reduce stress, but also to be able to have that care, have that community care, that support that you really need to be able to make it throughout each day. And so there are so many different types of relationships that you can have to practice interdependence. So emotional relationships, so that can be, talking to a therapist, that can be, that friend or that community member that you feel like you can call on, who can actually provide emotional space for you. And then we have professional relationships. So those are people who can support you and are mutually beneficial relationships, but there are professionals. So sometimes that may be, if you have a child, right? Someone who provides care to your children. That is a professional relationship. Your doctor, even like for me, like having someone to assist with groceries, paying for that service is a professional relationship, but it helps me to feel more supported. And then the last one is practical relationships. So things that people can actually do for you to take some weight off of your shoulders. So those can be little things like being able to help you, like if you have children, someone who, a family member, a community member who can help you to, babysit. It can also be someone who can provide you with connection to resources, very practical things. Like as a social worker, we help people so much to connect them to basic resources that help them to build relationships, but also to be able to share the load and responsibilities. And I'll just give a really quick example of how I have struggled with independence. And this is a very generic example, but I want to show you how like hyper independence showed up for me and how I've been able to shift. So when I was living alone, every week I would have to get groceries. Every week I would have to get groceries. And I lived in an apartment building and I was on the third floor and there was no elevator. So each week I had to go get my car, get my groceries, and lug these groceries up 3 flights of stairs every week. And there would be people who would see me struggling. They'd be like, "Do you need help? Can I take your groceries with you?" And I'd be like, "No, no, 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 no. I can't, no, I got it. I got it." When internally I knew I'm struggling with these groceries. I need some help. I need some support. But in me, it was thinking about safety. Like, is this safe for someone to help me with my groceries? If I'm taking care of these things, why should someone else be responsible for helping me share this load and share this weight? And when I would get into my apartment, I would be so tired. I would be just like, why am I doing this? But it was feeling like I couldn't reach out to others for support for even very, very simple things. So now, I am married. And so I have my husband who helps me, but also just literally paying for someone to bring the groceries upstairs so that I don't have to deal with that. So, and now having a relationship with the delivery people and building those relationships. So that's a very, very generic, simple example, but it was my way to begin to take off the hyper independence and begin to lean on others for support for interdependence. And it does take a village for all of us to be able to thrive, especially for Black women and girls. We need support. And so it, just like you're saying, Tony, here on Instagram, it takes a village, and it really starts with understanding ourselves first, what our needs are, the type of relationships that we want to build. And I will say that putting yourself out there can be, really, really, really difficult. Like putting yourself out there to build these relationships is hard. It's really, really hard because we don't know what's going to happen. But I encourage you all to begin to find ways that you can begin to practice interdependence, not to throw away your independence that you already have, because it's important to have. But how can we begin to take some of the stress, some of the weight, and as a lot of people will say, take the cape off to literally get support so we're not carrying so much on our own. And the last thing that I'll say is that as like a mental health provider, and I've worked with Black women around burnout, around stress, one of the things that I asked them, I was like, what do you need? How would you like to be supported? And so many of them say, nobody ever asked me that. No one ever thought to even ask me what I needed and how to be supported. And also feeling shame and feeling afraid to actually ask for help and being vulnerable in that way. And so it's really a beginning for us to really shift that. Like, it's okay to begin to take off some of these layers that we've been carrying with people who are safe and with people who are supportive. And these people don't always have to be your friends or family. These can be everyday people in your community. So, one thing that I also just want to offer to people is that if you know that your independence or your hyper independence comes from a history of trauma, comes from a history of neglect, comes from a history of really difficult experience, I really want to encourage you to reach out for support through therapy. Therapy is not a magic bullet. It doesn't save and cure all things. But I do think that Black women and girls need a space to process what's behind the independence. And particularly if there have been very, very difficult experiences that have led to not feeling like we can trust others, build relationships, and really receive the support that we need to survive. So at Sista Afya, we are located in Illinois, and we provide therapy. And I have plenty of therapists on my team who specialize in supporting women with stress and burnout and really just trauma, because a lot of it is connected to these very early experiences throughout our families and in our personal lives. So I really want to encourage people, even if you're not in Illinois, begin to reach out to other people for support in the form of therapy or other helping professionals that can help you to really begin to work through some of those things. So happy Independence Day tomorrow. Thank you all so much for tuning in. When I decided to talk about this, I didn't want to follow the tropes that are normally pushed around Black women being independent. I want to provide you all with more context and also ways for healing and ways for us to begin to lean on one another and care for one another as we are trying to reduce stress, reduce burnout throughout our lives. So next week, our topic will be what to do if you can't stop overworking. So if you're someone who just keeps working, keeps doing all of these different things, and you can't stop, next week I will go a lot more in depth about what to do if you can't stop working and overworking, especially if it's causing you a lot more distress. So I will be back next Thursday at 12 p.m. I did Wednesday today because tomorrow is Independence Day. And I know y'all going to be chilling with your family, with your friends, and you don't want to be listening to me. But next week, I will be back at 12 p.m. on Thursdays on IG, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you feel most comfortable, you can find me there. Please like this video, please share this video, and subscribe if you're on LinkedIn and YouTube. And I will see you all next week. Take care of all of you and be well.